The following podcast is a W2M Network partnership production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
You are listening to the Jobbers Court Podcast, part of the W2M Network. We're a podcast for wrestling fans old and new. Court is now in session. Hello and welcome again to Jobbers Court, the podcast for wrestling fans old and new. I am Rasquatch, King of Jobbers Court. We're here to bring you roundtable topics, like we always do. Joining me are my two compadres, my helpers, my knights, however you want to put it. I have Cedric, the wise old owl of wrestling, and the man of 1,004 nicknames. Gentlemen, we are going to be talking some topics tonight that cover a little bit more some of the trending topics, but some opinions and then some things to throw out there historically. You guys ready?
I am ready to howk and roll.
I said, are you ready? Nothing? All right.
Wise old owl, are you ready?
I am ready.
Were you born ready, though? That's the real question.
Oh, I was made ready.
That's none of my business. All right. So we're going to cover several topics tonight, but the first thing we're going to talk about, part-timers in wrestling. Yeah, we're going to talk about those glorious people who we see coming back year in, year out, whether they're now celebrities, movie stars, or just guys we haven't seen in 12 years. We're also going to talk about, there was a big announcement that a women's match will be the main event for a network special for the first time in history. We're also going to talk about having a huge build for someone, and if we think the payoff in today's wrestling is worth it. Cover a little bit about promos, some of our favorites, what we like and don't like. We've got an instant classic match of the week, just a bloody one, to cover. And then finally, we have our fantasy booking for the United States Championship Tournament. So, without further ado, let's start with part-timers in wrestling. Now, I know the topic mainly this was brought up because of the resurgence of Goldberg on the last edition of Monday Night Raw. So, Goldberg. Ellsworth. Anyway, so what we want to do today, see Cedric will groan. Anyway, so what I want to do today is I want your guys' opinion first on the coming back of Goldberg, what you think regarding the matches, but then I also want to know what are your guys' thoughts about part-timers coming in general. We'll hit that kind of all in one topic. Cedric, why don't you start us out? Let's talk to us about, were you able to see Goldberg's return? What did you think about it? And are you excited about the upcoming match?
I was excited to see him. When Goldberg first came onto the scene, I didn't have a way to watch WCW in Puerto Rico. Cable was way above our budget. And even the area that we lived, we just couldn't get it, point blank. So I got to see him a few times. I think I saw him once he was like at the peak of his streak. And unfortunately, soon afterwards, he lost. So, but the whole aura that they built in WCW around him and what he represented at the time, I was a big fan of that. It was, obviously at that age, I was like in awe to see this larger than life character and the way he was just destroying everybody. His run in WWE wasn't the same. They kind of tamed him a lot, and then towards the end they let him loose. So I was happy to see him. I think it's a little bit too late. I compared it in one of my posts. I compared it to the Pacquiao Mayweather fight, where obviously their build, their speed, everything was kind of less. Obviously, how long was that fight? Almost like a decade in the making. So I feel like it's kind of for Goldberg. It's a little bit late, but those around him say he's in great shape still. Obviously, he didn't take off his jacket and whatnot, so we don't know. Obviously, you can see the age. You can see he's smaller. But I was excited to see him. Not might be stealing some thunder from Hawk Standing, but something that always stays in my mind is something that Hawk Standing mentioned, which is nostalgia. How nostalgia sells, and I think some of these part timers that come in and just that had a decent career or even a phenomenal career, they show up for just a while, for a minute, and it sells. It gets us all excited and everything. Now, how long they stay, it depends obviously what they're doing on the outside. Like even Chris Jericho, I think this is one of his longest stays with the WWE, even though he still has his group, his music group, Fozzy. So it all depends, do they deliver while they're in the WWE? Are they putting 100% of it, or does it make sense? Storylines make sense. They're reinventing themselves. Are they doing something for the product? If they are, then definitely I'm all for it. But if they don't really add much, and all of a sudden they have a title strapped over them that they don't even defend, or you don't even see them around too much, like The Rock, I wasn't too happy about that. So, but when it comes to Goldberg, I'm happy to see him. Hopefully, this match will be much better than the first one. If he's really doing this for his son, so his son can see him as the hero Goldberg that he was while he was in wrestling, like he claims a hero, then I think he has even more initiative why to do the best that he can and probably be more careful and put even more emphasis into it. I'm not sure about Brock. I think Brock is going to definitely look much bigger than he looks today. But hopefully that reason that he's coming back is enough to give us a much better match. And I think even Brock is leaps and bounds than he was before, not because he Suplex City so much better, but I think Brock has really bought into that character. So I hope it's a good match. I hope it's not something that we'll look back and be like, man, what in the world did we just watch? Because that's the way I felt with the first one.
Okay. Hawkster, how about you?
All right. Well, talking about Goldberg specifically, I honestly wasn't expecting anything more than just the video game when initially announced. I got a lot of friends down in Mississippi and Alabama who were huge WCW Goldberg fans, and as soon as they announced him in the video game, like, Goldberg's coming back to WWE, he's gonna wrestle again. I'm like, no, he's not. And then they announce Paul Heyman really calls him out, and that's the first time I really actually put stock in, oh shit, Goldberg's gonna have one more match. And I was a little off put by it, to be honest with you, just because the way his run ended in WWE. It I don't know, just kind of put a sour taste in my mouth comparing that to his WCW legacy. Starting off with the 173 win streak, spearing everything that walked, and delivering such a powerful jackhammer. Like, Goldberg was the man back in WCW. And just seeing what they did with him in WWE just really kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. So I really wasn't expecting much in the way of him actually wrestling again. But I'll be honest, after seeing that promo on Monday, I got really hyped. It looks like Goldberg and Mr. Vinnie Mac have put a lot of their shit behind him, and I'm looking forward to this. I think it might be pretty well, with both Brock and Goldberg being part-timers and not being on the road all the time. I think they definitely have the potential to do a lot more collaboration on the match, and I think they can put together something really good, albeit it's not going to be the athletic spectacle that it would have been when they had their first match, even though that match probably is going to go down as one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. But I think they have the potential to do something very special here, and I'm looking forward to it now more than I was when it originally started being aired out. So we'll see what happens. Knowing the kind of person that Brock Lesnar is off screen, it probably won't actually do much collaboration on it, but I think they definitely have time to work through and really plan out a good match. Nostalgia, I think, is going to sell for this match, not necessarily the athletic ability.
Well, I'll tell you this, no matter what happens, all three parties involved, the WWE, Lesnar, and Goldberg, are going to make a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Because the promo that he gave on Monday, he did actually a really, really good job of delivering it and coming back and, really looking humble and drawing that emotion. Now, from what I read, unlike some of the talent, they just gave him bullet points and sent him out there. And I thought that that's why it came off a lot more genuine, unscripted. I hope we see more of this in the future, because it just goes to show you, what you can do when you just tell a guy, hey, just cover these couple things. Other than that, just do it.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because during his active period, he wasn't really ever known to be a big talker.
No,
granted, ever since he left doing a lot of the stuff on YouTube and various TV shows, I think he's developed his ability to speak a lot more naturally. But I think it was hilarious that they kind of bleeped out the second half of his walk to the ring, because that ovation he got was, I think he was blown away more than anyone else that he was walking out there to such a response. Like, he was like, hell yeah, fuck yeah, excuse the language. But yeah.
He was in tears in the ring.
Yeah.
Like, he had to control himself, and I always tell my wife, I'm like, I would, if there's one thing that I would have loved to have experienced in my lifetime, is to walk into an arena and knowing that people are waiting for you. And it was just amazing. It was just an amazing pop, like AJ Styles type pop that he got, and maybe even more. It was just crazy.
Yeah, this was Road Warrior-esque, when they always talk about the Road Warrior pop. What I found crazy, and people were saying, well, he looked winded just coming to the ring, and I was like, man, I think just that adrenaline was just going. And
oh yeah,
I know he's in good shape because he trains Muay Thai like 4 days a week, and that's probably why he's so much thinner now, because he trains MMA as opposed to pro wrestling like he was.
Right, not smaller, he's leaner.
Yeah, and I still think he's probably, in his current state, I would guess he's probably 255, 260 instead of like 280, instead of 285 or whatever he used to be. Now, after I watched that, it brought me down memory lane, and so I had to go back and watch the Monday Night Nitro from August of '98, when it was in Rapid City, when I went to go see it when I was younger. And just the way that the crowds reacted to him in '98, and he wrestled Ming that night. And I remember Ming previously came out and basically beat down 4 men in the opening match by himself, and so Ming was looking like a monster. And this is the young Mark days when I understood what wrestling was, but I still was like, dude, that dude's awesome. He just beat up 4 guys. And then Goldberg came out, beat Ming in like 4 or 5 minutes, called it a day, and left. And so I was just like, Goldberg's ridiculous. Like, there was nothing else you could say about it at that time. So I was a fan of what he put out there. I will say this in regards to, when we're going to talk about some part-time runs here in a second, but in regards to part-timers coming out, if it's billed in a match like this, where you have a Goldberg versus a Brock Lesnar, it's not for a title, it's not for anything, it's just 2 guys getting hyped up for a match, I'm perfectly okay with it. In fact, I love this kind of stuff. There used to be a pay-per-view that WCW held, and I think it was Night of Champions, or Clash of Champions, whatever it was.
Clash
of Champions.
But they used to bring back older wrestlers that were semi-retired, and they would have 2 or 3 matches on that card. Like, the one I watched had Nick Bockwinkel versus Dory Funk Jr. And that match was significant because those 2 had never gotten a chance to square off, because one was NWA and one was AWA, and they weren't allowed to do business. And so this was in 90, I think this was in 93 or 94. I was watching it. But I mean they were long since out of their prime, but they went out there and had a 10-minute Broadway, you know. It was different kind of wrestling, not what you remember seeing for that era in the 90s. But from a nostalgia standpoint, if we want to have matches like that, I'm perfectly okay with it. But just pick a network special where you could get, 2-3 matches booked for that in addition to whatever else is going on, and have 2 or 3 matches be nostalgia matches. The gimmick battle royal comes to mind too. Terrible match during WrestleMania, but just the fact that it happened and the gimmicks and the guys that were in it, I couldn't look away. I just liked it that much for its entertainment value. So I think there's something to be said about nostalgia in wrestling. So just to delve a little deeper into this topic, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw to you guys a few part-time returns. And I just want you guys to say good or bad and why. Okay, Cedric sort of covered on this already, but we're going to try to delve a little bit deeper into this. So the big one that comes to mind for me, obviously, in recent years is The Rock. So Cedric, I said you didn't care for it. We're going to get into your reason why. But I guess we'll start with Hulkster, and then we'll let Cedric respond. When The Rock came back to face John Cena and eventually went on to face CM Punk, were you a fan of that short-term comeback or not?
All right, well, anytime that I get to hear, if you smell what the Rock is cooking, man, it's great. I don't care how long he's gone. Anytime I get to see The Rock, I think it's great, especially with all the promos he does. His his Rock concert going off on Vicky Guerrero was probably one of the best promos I've seen from The Rock, at least in the last 10 years. Man, like, The Rock is always going to have a place in WWE or in pro wrestling in general, and it's always going to be great to see them. I actually was a fan of the back and forth between John Cena and CM Punk, because that was when they brought the new style of the championship in. And yeah, sure, having a part-timer win the championship, we can all have our piece on that and why we like it, don't like it. I was actually a fan of The Rock carrying the new title, and the only reason for that was because of CM Punk still carrying the old belt. And he's like, I want that one. Like, I thought that was cool because that instantly brought prestige and instantly brought value to the new style of championship. I like that a lot. I would have liked to see The Rock stick around a little more, and I think that was actually part of the plan originally, just because of his injury. I think that's why it got cut short.
Yeah. Hey, Hulkster, you're fading away. Are you away from your mic for a second?
I'm sorry. Where did you lose me at?
No, we got it all. It just sounded a little bit further away than it does now. Perfect.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. What do you think, Cedric? Go ahead and tell me why I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong, man. I don't think when it comes to opinions, they're, well, let me not say that because I've heard some really crappy opinions and wrestling pretty bad ones.
Well, you know what opinions are like, right? Everyone's got one.
Yeah, that damn callus that I have on my pinky. Anyway, but my thing was that when he comes back, for example, when he had that year run, I think he was in for a year, if I'm not mistaken. Mm. He gets him having the title and not really doing much with it because he has so many. We knew he had so many commitments, so it could have been a video package or just come in quick and leave. The thing to me is, if you're gonna carry the championship, at least be around. I know we've talked about this before when Brock Lesnar did it, and it kind of worked for Brock, the whole in and out, because of who he was. It was just like, oh my gosh, when he shows up, somebody's gonna get beat the crap out of them, and then he'll leave again for a few months, then he'll come back. So it kind of worked a little bit. But with The Rock, every time he comes back, he brings the same persona with him. People laugh, people enjoy it. But I even had a friend of mine who was a really big fan of his say, you know what? This is so 19 whatever. When he first appeared as this Rock, he was like, it doesn't mesh too well with this crowd. And it kind of doesn't. It's almost like you're trying to relive something and bring it to this age, and it doesn't. It for me, it was like I'm enjoying the nostalgia, but it doesn't feel the same like as when I first heard it. That's my thing. Like his character needs, he'll always be The Rock, so you can't really change that. But for me, it almost felt like old. It was like, okay, there's no new material here. Being champion and not really being around, to me, that some people say that's prestigious, others don't feel that way. I'm one of the ones that doesn't feel that it carries too much prestige just to give it him because he's The Rock and whatever. But there was a storyline behind it, so okay, cool. Just showing up for one night, which he did last time, and squash someone that unfortunately keeps getting the short end of the stick, even though we all think he should be a star. That's another thing that I'm not a fan of. You show up just because you're The Rock, you rock bottom somebody, people elbow them, beat them in a few minutes, whatever it is, and that's it. And then life goes on, and the next week we're having a storyline where this guy that just got squashed by The Rock is supposed to be somebody. That's another reason why I'm not a big fan of his part time when it's in ring performance. If he wants to cut a promo, whatever, that's one thing. If he's promoting a movie or something, but if it's in ring performance, I would prefer them to stick around a little while, have a few matches, maybe put over a few folks, stuff like that. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. When he came back for WrestleMania and tore apart the Wyatt family, I feel like that would have been a great spot for him to give a rub to the Wyatts, especially with what they were trying to build at that time. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
Well, I think the funny thing about that is he did on the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely put Bray Wyatt over, on the mic. But unfortunately, I think you get painted in a corner, and I don't think he booked that. I don't think he went to the back and said, "Hey, I want to squash Eric Rowan." So you have to blame creative. What I find interesting is it could have been a real easy, like, he rolls out of the ring, the Wyatts are still kind of standing there looking menacingly. Out comes the social jobbers. He does in the social jobbers, which would make complete sense. That's what they're there for. And then you leave this open with him and the Wyatts. He didn't squash the Wyatts. They can still go on and still look good going forward. And you use the social outcasts the way that they were intended to be used. So I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot like Stone Cold coming out, and Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley coming out and beating up the League of Nations. It's just
and New Day.
Well, yeah. Really, to me, this is a tough one because I love the Rock as much as the next guy. I was more of a Stone Cold guy, to be honest, but still love the Rock. My only thing with it, and even with that run in general, is that I think that it helped the Rock. I don't think it helped anybody he wrestled. I don't think it elevated John Cena at all. I think it was a good match to promote, but it didn't make any sense to me how you have him beat John, because now you've basically put into place that the Attitude Era was better than whatever this new era is called, because they beat the top superstar from that era. And yeah, they wrestled again, and it was different, and all that. But to me, it didn't do, I don't think, the purpose. I don't know if it did what they were intending it to do, and that's to try to help out the talent they currently have.
Just another thing on that, when The Rock did beat CM Punk, ending his 434-day reign, longest in the modern era, it pretty much killed Punk's career. Like, he never really got any good booking after that.
Because Punk became
probably what left him.
Punk became a job guy for part-timers.
Lesnar.
Well, I mean, you had Lesnar, Undertaker. There
doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot of them. So Speaking of that and talent and elevating talent, The Undertaker coming back, wrestling a match at WrestleMania. Your guys' thoughts, yay or nay? You guys still like him? Still like to see him come back and give that one more match at WrestleMania every year? Yes or no?
Sorry, go ahead, Cedric.
I'll say yeah. Let Cedric go.
I still enjoy seeing him. I still get goosebumps for some reason, even though he doesn't look anywhere near the way he did when he debuted in WWE or when he became the American Badass. There's something about seeing him walk slowly, and sometimes it looks even slower every time he shows up. But there's something about his character that I'm okay with seeing him once a year. Now, my wife not so much. She doesn't really think that it works out. That he shows up once a year, gets his payday, and then leaves. There's something about him that for some reason I'm okay with that. Now, if he were to just come in, do what The Rock did to CM Punk, somebody who has an incredible record, take the title away from that person just to lose it or immediately, that to me that wouldn't make sense even if it was Undertaker. This last match he had with Shane, I was okay with it. So many people complained about it. You knew it was going to happen, and yet I was okay with it because it was The Undertaker. Didn't make too much sense. Obviously, Shane, Undertaker, why? But just seeing him, I'm okay with seeing The Undertaker. Now, the day that he cannot produce, obviously it's not the same as before, but I still like what I saw in ring performance. The day that he cannot do that anymore and you really see him struggling in the ring, then it's time to call it quits. I don't care if it is The Undertaker. Because I think that was what happened with Ric Flair. At some point, he just went way past his prime, and I would not want to see that with The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. He's not at his peak, he's not at his prime, but he still can give you that nostalgia. He still can get those goosebumps, you know. The day that he can't do that anymore, then it's time for him to truly walk away, slowly walk away.
Slowly. All right, Huckster, Undertaker, your thoughts?
I'm right there with Cedric. Like there's just something about him. It's that aura, that feel, the goosebumps when you hear the bell toll is just like, oh, it's the Undertaker. I don't care how long you've been a wrestling fan. I don't care how smart you are to the business. The day someone doesn't mark out to the Undertaker, I think that's the day you died as a wrestling fan. And when he lost against Brock Lesnar and the streak ended, I was okay with him never showing up again. Like, as much as it hurt inside to see that loss, like during that match, the Undertaker was hurting, and you could see it during the match and after the match that there was just something inside of him that broke. And seeing him come back the next year against Wyatt was great. Seeing him at Hell in a Cell this last WrestleMania was great. I'm looking forward to seeing him again this year. I haven't heard anything about it. I've seen a couple pictures. He still looks okay. Still looks like he's in shape. I'm looking forward to it, seeing him again. I always am. And I'm legitimately worried, emotionally worried about the day when WrestleMania is on and I don't see The Undertaker. Like, that's just not WrestleMania, you know? Like, how can you have a WrestleMania without The Undertaker? And I know it's coming soon, but, like, I'm very afraid of that day.
Yeah, I obviously feel the same way. I love to see Undertaker, and I haven't seen him wrestle a bad match. Even at his age, his performances are still pretty good. Now, sometimes I'm like, damn, he's pulling out all the stops. He needs to be careful when he's trying to hit like that leg drop on the apron and stuff. Like, I'm scared to death for him. But he has consistently still put out good matches. I don't think that you'd have to worry that much about potentially seeing an Undertaker at every WrestleMania, because if I'm the company, after Undertaker retires, I have, much like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal Trophy, I have something to put out there where maybe it's some type of Undertaker award where, you know, they have some type of match that represents a trophy given to you by the Undertaker or something based on like a mini tournament or something maybe they hold every year. But I don't know. I think you could always work something like that in to honor him, because the only other person they honor in that way is Andre the Giant, and at this point Undertaker has had a longer career, and I dare say may have built up more popularity than even Andre has. Maybe not, you know, but I mean, I think in a social media world and everything else that we live in, I think it's possible. But all right, so one last thing. Brock Lesnar's current, I guess, reign as a part-timer. Are you a fan of it? Yes or no, Hawkster?
Well, that's another one too. It's Brock Lesnar, man. The dude is still a freak when it comes to athletic ability for his size, and I don't care if you like pro wrestling or not. You know, you're still going to be interested, and your ears are going to perk whenever you hear the name Brock Lesnar. You know, so sure, if the company can make money out of him, use him. I don't care if it's 1 or 2 times a year. Do it. Like the guy's money. Suplex City is fun. Sure, it's only 3 or 4 moves, but is 1 match out of the year, 2 matches out of the year, maybe 3 if they got enough money to give to him. But hey, why not?
Okay, Cedric.
There's something. He's another one that when his entrance music starts, you know, there's a tad bit of goosebumps as well. Not like the Undertaker, not as much as I got when I saw Goldberg come out from the smoke and he blew the smoke out of his mouth. I freaking I screamed like a little girl. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm okay with Brock if the matchup that I'm gonna see makes sense. I was not a fan of the Dean Ambrose match that he had. That match made no sense to me, and I can't find too many people that liked it. But if he's gonna come back to fight someone where that makes sense, them two getting together in the ring, sure, if it's a part-time, I don't mind. And the cool thing with him is that with or without the title, it's still interesting to see him. But if he were to have the title again, I would rather see him a little bit longer than just showing up every so often, especially if you have the title.
Yeah.
But without the title, if there's somebody is getting that big, and for whatever reason, let's say, because obviously Brock is a heel, but he's like one of those guys that the crowd just loves. So let's just say there's someone like a Miz type or something that you want to squash. I believe it with Brock, and I'm not gonna be mad. Not like The Rock taking away CM Punk's record, like how Stanley said, which I've forgotten about that. And as you mentioned, my blood pressure went up. But Brock squashing somebody like that, I wouldn't mind it. Just come go. Definitely get to see Paul Heyman talk, and shoot, if you don't like Paul Heyman's promos, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah. My wife just hates when he says Brock Lesnar.
He spits everywhere.
She can't stand it. This last time he almost choked. I think his voice went out. I felt bad for him. But anyway, okay, yeah, I'm obviously I'll be a big fan of Brock Lesnar, and I've said it, a lot of time. I think you got to take him out of his comfort zone to really make him have a good match, and I hope that the match he does end up having with Goldberg is physical enough to kind of bring them both out of their shells from a performance standpoint. I'd be fine if it was just a big power move fest. I'm cool with that. Just don't try to do a freaking strength contest, and then don't just try to run the ropes and throw a shoulder at each other, please. Like, just make it make sense, and just, I'll tell this to those two, just do a better job than you did the first time. That's all I'll say.
No shooting star presses.
Yeah, don't do shooting. I mean, I don't think he'll ever pull that move out of his arsenal again. Anyway, I don't think he cares that much anymore. So, all right, so we talked for a pretty good amount of time on this one. So we should probably transition over to one of our other topics. So, obviously, another big announcement besides Goldberg was that the women's championship match between Sasha Banks and Charlotte will be going on last. It'll be the main event of TLC, or Hell in a Cell, sorry. And it'll actually be in the Hell in a Cell, so a double first. Not only is it the first time we've had a women's main event, but it's also the first time that women have been allowed in the Hell in a Cell. Internet was mixed on this. Some were kind of crapping all over it, saying that you're saying that your women's title has more prestige than your world title, or your universal title, where others are obviously ecstatic. Where do you guys stand on this discussion, Hawkster?
Right time, right wrestlers, wrong match. So I have no problem with Charlotte and Sasha main eventing. I think the amount of talent they have rightly deserves a main event. And nothing against Seth Rollins and KO, because those guys are going to be main eventing for years to come. But I'm excited and I'm happy for them. But the Hell in a Cell match, I'm not a fan of having more than one on this show. Like, every time I see like 2 or 3 Hell in a Cell matches all in one night, to me it kind of takes away from the grandiose spectacle that is the Hell in a Cell. It's not quite to the level of gore and violence that the Elimination Chamber was, but it's still right on that level, and you've definitely got the historical significance of it. Undertaker, Mankind, Undertaker, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Mankind again. It's like you've got, speaking of part-timer and Undertaker, you got the Hell in a Cell. It's got history in it. I don't really know what they're going to do inside of a Hell in a Cell, or potentially outside of a Hell in a Cell if they can figure out a way to get out of it. Exactly how they're gonna pull off this match to beat or to top KO and Seth Rollins, or even Rusev and Roman.
Well, I can solve that for you right now. When Charlotte hits a corkscrew moonsault off the top of the Hell in a Cell, then
so
it's
that would
game
be
over.
interesting. And I will say this: I definitely, out of everyone in this match, other than KO and Seth Rollins, okay, I just screwed myself over there. But I think they have potential to do some high flying stuff, and I think that their bodies can definitely take that kind of fall. But I don't know. I just don't know what all they're gonna do, and I hope they prove me wrong here. But I called it a while ago that I thought that women were gonna do a main event or do a stipulation type match. I was looking more for a TLC match, actually, like you mispronounced at the beginning of this introduction.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I was I was actually expecting a TLC or a ladder match. I think that would have been really, really exciting to see what Charlotte and Sasha can do with a ladder. But yeah, I hope to be pleasantly surprised, but I just don't know. Like, I just don't know.
Okay. Cedric, how do you feel about it?
I just don't know. I mean, wait a minute.
I just don't know. Thanks for stealing my thunder.
More stealing. Anyway, I lie, cheat, and steal. I don't know. I'm joking. I'm lying right now. Anyway.
Are you?
Let me just steal. Okay, I'm just gonna steal. I heard a few of the guys talk about this, and I read some stuff online, and it got me thinking. If we discuss this topic, like, what are my true feelings? Not just like hearing other people having an influence, but some of the stuff that I heard was pretty good, and I think I feel the same. So, first of all, my wife and I were discussing this. She was like, the paper is called Hell in a Cell, but you only have one match in it, and this time we finally have more than one. And she kind of compared it to lockdown. We were talking about lockdown, all matches when they were in the cage, but yet how Stanley brought up a really good point. Even though the pay-per-view was called Elimination Chamber, at one point you only had one match in it, and then it became two matches when it was for the two different titles. So I can see where you're coming from, Huxer, with the whole, that aura that it has. Now all of a sudden you have three in one night. But my thing is with the girls or the ladies or the women,
Wow. Okay, continue.
if the feud would have been longer, you know, and I heard this from Sean, and it's a really good point, and I think you guys mentioned that, and I'm also gonna share it. For anybody who did not see these ladies fighting in NXT, this was like a really quick progression to this match. I would have preferred to see more fights either between them or involve other folks, because I don't just want to see them two fighting all the freaking time, but just have more matches, something that brings so much heat that this is what we have to be in Hell in a Cell to finish it. Now, it being the pay-per-view, being the last match of the pay-per-view, I'm okay with that to a certain point. With this whole women revolution, we know that they've been trying to push more of the women, and why not push the title and give them their spot? It's not like we're talking about WrestleMania. So at some point, I think it was going to happen. It might be a little bit too soon, in my opinion. They're not at their peak as a division, or even them two as the feud that they're having on the main roster. To me, it might be a little bit too soon, but it was going to happen eventually. We've had pay-per-views or network specials where the title was not defended, and I know some people hate it, some people like it. It all depends what side of the fence you're on, on the opinion. The Universal title is still a new title, so if somebody's saying this title is more prestigious than that one, I still don't know how to feel with the Universal title as it is, because to me the World title still should be the one that represents the whole company, but that's no here nor there. Give them a shot. Let's see what happens. Let's see what the reaction is, ratings, whatever, and then go from there. See if it was a success or not. But I don't think it's gonna be the norm. You know what I mean? I don't think we're gonna start seeing the ladies' main event every pay-per-view, but eventually it's gonna happen. And I guess why not them two? It would have been different if it would have been Bayley and Emma, or someone else that's not Sasha, Charlotte, or even Becky Lynch. Like right now, like a Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss main eventing a network special for SmackDown, that wouldn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
They're not to that point. So I'm assuming WWE is just cashing in on how much people have backed these two women. So it was gonna happen eventually. Why not on a non-WrestleMania type network special?
Yeah,
Okay.
If I could jump in real quick,
Yep.
Talking about the build-up and the story going into this match, I agree with you to a point, Cedric, as far as them kind of not really selling the full story. Because, yeah, if you haven't watched any of NXT, then you're missing a majority of this feud that's been going on for almost 3 years now. And I think WWE has kind of missed out on telling more of that story. Because like when they did the interviews with Lita, really all they talked about was just how does it feel to be in the main event and how does it feel to be in the Hell in a Cell. And you got Sasha who's like really ecstatic and overselling, and you got Charlotte who's like meh. I'm gonna beat her ass, and I'm just better. It's kind of just being careless or whatever. I think they should bring up part of their NXT run where Charlotte was the champion and Sasha was the one that ended up dethroning her after some of their excellent matches, and bring up the triple threat they had with Becky Lynch, where Becky was under Sasha's tutelage and ended up trying to surpass her and take the title herself, and where Sasha ended up winning altogether. I think if you bring some of that story into this and kind of do like a rehash of the past and kind of get into Charlotte's head. Well, Sasha beat you for the title in NXT. She was the only person that's beat you for the title here on Raw. Like, are you sure you're not worried about her finally beating you? You know, I think they should bring some of that in. It might make it a little bit more intriguing for the fans.
It's going to be kind of weird, you know, after this match. Like, what else do you give them? You know, it's Hell in a Cell. It sounds like one of those, you know, this is to end this feud type of match. And right now on Raw, they are the two ladies that I'm pretty sure people want to watch wrestle. Outside of the other ones, I'm not, you know, so they have to give you a reason why to watch, and not just because we're groundbreaking or whatnot. It's the first time ever, or we're cashing in on the popularity that them still have. Like, give the regular person a reason why to say, hey, it makes sense that they're gonna fight, not just because it's the first time ever or it's historical. But it'll be interesting if they were gonna try. Like I said, they picked two of the best right now, not all time, but two of the best right now to do it. It wasn't Becky Lynch versus like I said, Alexa Bliss or All Red or whatever color she is now.
Well, so for me, I'm excited that, you know, they're going to be on last. So a few things just to talk about some of the topics you just talked about. I want my Hell in a Cell Network special to be every match in Hell in a Cell. That's just me though.
Now, okay, if it was every single match, that would be awesome because, you know, it's built as Hell in a Cell. So if every single match was in there, I think that would be awesome. And just to have a couple and then a couple not. Yeah.
It was just like when Extreme Rules first started. Like every match that night was Extreme Rules.
Yes. See, that's what a gimmick pay-per-view named after the gimmick should be, in my opinion.
Now, on the flip end of that, though, you have the Royal Rumble, right? Now, that's one where, you know, you can't have multiple Royal Rumbles. Although I do think it'd be cool to have like two 20-man Rumbles and one be a Raw Rumble and one be a SmackDown Rumble, but whatever.
Yeah, that would be kind of neat. In a women's Royal Rumble, have both of them in there.
But
there's only like 12 or 13 of them.
But same thing with Survivor Series. Survivor Series had gone so downhill, in my opinion, because they'd only have one actual Survivor Series rules match. I miss the days where Survivor Series was literally the entire pay-per-view was just Survivor Series matches. There were no titles to defend. There were no nothing, but you would get captains and leaders and combinations of teams that you would never get to see otherwise.
War Games.
Yeah, and then War Games is another one. Now War Games was only one match, though. One or two matches, I think, in War Games. The whole pay-per-view wasn't War Games.
But you got both rings set up there, and they're alternating each ring throughout the match. And the fans are just sitting there, what are they going to do with two rings?
Oh, and I mean, I love War Games. Don't get me wrong. I'm just when it comes to these type of pay-per-views, obviously that's why sometimes Money in the Bank is a weird one for me. I don't understand why you have it as its own network special because there's only going to be one or maybe two Money in the Bank matches. And then his Money in the Bank I thought was a perfect thing for WrestleMania. Made a lot of sense when it was, but whatever. That we're not here to talk about that, I guess. I just when it comes to women in general, I think that the match it'll suit them. I'm just not sure how much, I guess, hardcore stuff that they're gonna work. I'm not sure how okay they are with that as a company with it at this moment. You know, what if one of the ladies takes a kendo stick or something to the head and gets busted open while they're in there? Like, what are they gonna do? Just those type of things. I watched a Monday Night Raw from, it was a pay-per-view back from the Attitude Era, and like Luna Vachon and Ivory beat the hell out of each other. You know, I mean, that was hardcore backstage brawl type stuff. So it's not like there's not a precedent for women doing that. It just hasn't happened in a long, long time. And so I don't know how much they're going to actually let them unleash in this match. And then you're going to be having sat through two additional Hell in a Cells, which Roman usually produces pretty well in these Hell in a Cells. So I have a feeling him and Rusev will have a hell of a match, and obviously KO and Seth Rollins, and then you'll have this one. So good stuff to look forward to. But when I look at the feuds, I don't think there's a better one on Raw right now than the women's feud. I don't know what your guys' opinion is on it or how you feel about it, but personally, I don't think that there's a better one on that show right now. So why not let them go last?
Agreed.
All right.
I heard something.
I would say, go ahead. I would say,
I heard something that somebody said, and it made a lot of sense. Or like, if the people want to watch it, it doesn't matter if it's for the title or not. Let it happen.
Yeah.
And if this is the match that folks want to see, then so be it. Why not? And if anything, being the first time is almost, I hate to say it, like an experiment. See how they react. What I would think if they don't do well, I don't think right now there's any other two females in that company that will be able to do it better.
Yeah.
So just see how it happens. And again, it's not WrestleMania. If it would have been like, let's try this on WrestleMania type thing, that would have been a big risk. So try it now, see how it works. And if it works, you know that the other ladies got to step up their game. If these two can pull it off, definitely all the other ladies in whatever NXT, SmackDown, Raw, whatever it is, they have to then really pick up their game because more is going to be expected from the women's division,
Yeah. I also don't know if it's a hint or just something that other people might not have noticed, but in WWE 2K16, you could not have a women's wrestler versus a men's wrestler. If you selected a men's wrestler, grayed out all the women wrestlers, you couldn't select them to wrestle. In 2K17, the men and the women can wrestle each other. There is no breaking of that. So a woman wrestler in the ring can get in there with a male wrestler on any of the matches. So I don't know if that's just a hint at something, but it does seem like a purposeful thing that they did to push this forward. So I think that they're impressed with their women's division, and I think it's one of the best women's divisions, obviously, that we've seen since, I would say personally, since the early 90s. But
I just want to be in the Royal Rumble, so
yeah.
Mm-hmm. That brings up a good point. How would you guys feel about more intergender matches, especially when it comes to championship rankings, kind of like how they got in Lucha Underground, where Sexy Star is the new Gift of the Gods champion, where she can challenge for the main title over there.
I think me personally, and I don't know, Cedric, you might know more about Lucha than I do, but in a Lucha style, I think it works a little better because they're similar in size. I think it's a heck of a lot harder when you would have, say, a Sasha Banks, or actually, I'll use Alexa Bliss as the example because she's 4'10". So if you have an Alexa Bliss and she's trying to compete with any person on the men's roster, even if it's who's a job guy like Curtis Axel, right? How are you going to make it believable with a guy 6'4"? I think Curtis is 6'4", probably like 215, 225, whatever. And then you have Alexa Bliss, it's like 100 pounds soaking wet and 4'10". I think it's very hard to tell a story. And then also it could turn off some of your fan base who don't want to see women get beat up, basically.
Be a bully, not a star.
Yeah. So
be a star, not a bully.
I knew what you meant. I mean what you know. So, but I think that that's part of the problem. But to me, when it comes to like Lucha Underground, you can do that because I think they're a lot more similar in size. Because I know when I saw Cage wrestling, what's her name that comes out there with Johnny Mundo? Anyway, when I saw Cage wrestling her, I was like, oh wow, and then you couldn't turn that into a believable match or a believable angle. It just wouldn't work that way.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't know about so much the size, but I definitely agree with you on the lucha style being more acceptable. Because that match specifically, I remember watching and kind of cringing a few times. But the match with Sexy Star and Mil Muertes at the beginning of season 2 of Lucha Underground was pretty phenomenal. Even though she lost, and at the very end, right before Prince Puma comes and makes a save, like I'm very worried, like oh crap, she's gonna get her face broken. Up until that point, it was a very entertaining match. So like it can be done. I mean, just look at Lita and everything she did in her career. But yeah, I understand as far as the style. I think Lucha definitely does favor that a little bit more. What do you think, Cedric?
Sorry, man. You say Lita and everything she did. My bad.
Oh no.
Are you talking about Edge?
and Hardy and whatever. Anyway,
Yeah, but with Edge, it was on Monday Night Raw.
it's true.
It got Raw all right.
Yeah, Raw. All right, I'm done thinking about it. Continue.
Yeah. I don't want to watch it. Not on WWE. That's just me. That's just my opinion. I've seen it before on AAA. I've seen it on ICMotW. I've seen it even in Puerto Rico. And when they have it, I think you're right. Maybe the lucha style just makes it work. Maybe even knowing the little bit of history and story behind the culture and stuff like that, the thoughts about it, like this whole women's revolution that just started now. Like I've seen in different federations, women fighting for the mixed titles or whatnot. So I just don't see it selling in the WWE. The WWE has done so much to do this PG era and to just start going away from it and to have a man face a woman. To me, it's not gonna work. A lot of these females right now are very small in size and weight and everything. And like you said, Brad Squash, if they want to fight a bigger person, imagine a Batista, a Brock Lesnar, someone of that caliber, it just wouldn't look real. Them taking Hurricanrana from one of the ladies or a sunset flip or monkey flip to the extent, and for some reason it works in the lucha style just works, and it's not believable, but you see the choreography and it actually works when it's happening. But I cannot see it in the WWE. People complain when a small cruiserweight faces a bigger super heavyweight. Now you're gonna have a woman that might be even smaller than your cruiserweight fighting one of your bigger heavyweights and beating them. I just don't see it. Just keep it as is, in my opinion.
Yeah,
No point to experiment.
I'm right there with you on that. To me it's just a tough one because I think that it's kind of like when I was in wrestling and you'd have the guys in the lighter divisions and they might have to wrestle a girl. It was always one of those situations where it was kind of a lose-lose situation because you didn't want to, if you lost to them, then obviously you'd get ridiculed. If you beat them, you would get ridiculed for beating them. So I don't know. It was just one of those. It was one of those things to me where you couldn't really win. And in pro wrestling, I think there's a time and a place for it. And I just, I think that if anybody was able to do it, China was, and I thought she was fairly successful, but she was also, nearly 200 pounds. She wasn't, 125, 130 pounds. But all right, I think we were able to cover everything for this women's main event and our thoughts on that. Anybody got anything else they want to talk about before we switch over?
Yeah, I got one more little thing. Backing away from the intergender matches, but sticking with women's wrestling. WWE's coined the Women's Revolution title, or moniker, if you will. But a couple days ago, I watched a video with Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Adam Cole just doing like an hour-long quick-fire Q&A. And one of the questions that was brought up was a women's division in New Japan. Now, I know New Japan is very high on tradition, and they've always been known as strictly male competitors in NJPW. But how would you guys feel about women having their own division within NJPW, or should it just stay their own promotion in Japan?
Man, I'll start because I know the least about it. I don't think I'd be a big fan of it. I think you have to be able to work you have to be able to work a completely different style, a more shoot style in that particular company, and I think that it would get borderline awkward. Having now, if you're just talking about maybe having just a straight women's division, I don't know. I mean, they're used, but in the history of all of those companies, they haven't done it. Should they? Boy, I don't know. Me personally, I think that they have so much stuff going on, and they've got so much talent as it is within that company. I don't think a women's division would add anything, and I don't know if women's wrestling in general worldwide is as big as it was in the mid 80s to early 90s, and they didn't have a division then. So if they didn't want a division then, I don't see why they would want a division now. Cedric?
I was just looking up to see, what they've had. I just found something like All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling. I guess it was a company from Japan at one point.
But it's a separate, it was a separate entity.
Yeah.
So a lot of people get it confused, thinking that it was part of All Japan, but it wasn't. It was its own separate. They just call it All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling.
Mm-hmm. To me, listen, be yourself. Don't be a follower. You know what I'm saying? If this has worked for you this whole time, the pro wrestle style that New Japan has, obviously the female federation that we just mentioned, All Japan, they have the same style. No, I don't think they need it. They've built on this tradition. This is what they are. This is what has worked. Just leave it as this. I don't think they need to have a women's division there to add to it. Just keep it as is. That's the good thing about having options. You watch what you want to watch, and there's no need to emulate or get with the times or whatnot. Just leave it as is. That's just my opinion.
What's your thoughts then, since you brought it up?
Honestly, I'm indifferent, to be honest with you. I think New Japan, they're so rich in their history that in just the country of Japan itself is so based on tradition. And since that company's been around for so long, they may be the top company, second in the world, only to WWE. But what's working for them, I think, is working just fine. If they did, I think that'd be cool. But like you said, I don't think it would really bring anything truly new because they already have their all women's promotion in Japan. And like Cedric said, that you're gonna watch what you want to watch. There's availability for any type of wrestling that you want to watch, whether it's women's or whether it's over the top crazy athletics like PWG or just really stupid bizarre humor like Chikara. There's something out there for everybody, and in the age that we have with social media and just technology in general, like it's easy to find this stuff, and it's easy to get over and make money now as a pro wrestler probably than it's ever been. So I'm indifferent. If they do, cool, but like you said, I don't think it really bring much in the way of a fan base.
All right, cool. So, based on the time we're sitting at, I think the best thing to do is would you guys rather cover doing a huge build for someone prior to their debut, or would you guys rather cover promos? Because we're probably not going to have enough time to cover both.
I think we can save promos for another.
All right.
Yeah.
So then that brings us to builds and wrestlers. So what I want to do is kind of going to cover some classic ones, some ones that happened in the past, and how it kind of went over versus sort of how they do things today. For me, one that comes to mind was Mankind leading up to his debut. you'd have the weird promos in the boiler room, and he'd have the rat, and he was rocking back and forth, and they would just say 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, whatever it was, but he had just a little spot in each show where they just had a vignette of some kind. Flash forward to today, and you have Kurt Hawkins, right, who's got a few one-liners and sort of these vignettes to kind of set up who he is, and it talks about him debuting. What are your guys' thoughts on a build-up prior to a talent, doing, say, a month or two ahead of time, sort of advertising for this particular wrestler? Do you think that it might build up an expectation that someone can't live up to, or do you think that it's good to get the characters out there so that the fans in that can at least see a basic outlay of their characters? How do you guys feel about it, Cedric?
I think it depends on the wrestler, man. To be honest with you, let's say I'm just gonna throw this out. Sting, for example, even an older version of Sting, just to see anything that was giving you a hint that he might return in a WWE ring, that was just amazing. The little setup with him, and man, I just had a name in my mind that just came and went. So let me go, instead of mentioning somebody who it worked for, Darren Young. How many weeks were they doing this whole build up, make Darren Young great again? Where is he? Did it even work? People were like, really? You guys are making Darren Young to give a true push? What happened? Not him, Bob Beck, nor Titus O'Neil are really relevant. And I thought they were going to try to do something with them. And it just kind of fell to the side.
I think what happened was they had one of the worst matches of the year, and potentially one of the worst feuds of the year.
So you're building a guy that really, all in all, it's not like people were so interested in him in the first place. So for weeks we had this build. I wasn't.
I actually was, not so much from the build, but the first match I watched him wrestle after this whole gimmick change, and they pushed it, and I really liked his style that he had changed and that he was bringing out. But honestly, I blame Titus O'Neil for this whole thing, because his mic work at that time was atrocious. It was just terrible. And his heel turn hasn't really been working out for him all that well either. But continue.
Well, I blame those that led them to this, because you have to know how bad Titus is on the mic. He's terrible. I'm sorry, Titus, it's horrible, even in the commercials. But so for me, that's one example that I have. Darren, I don't really think it worked. Then, unfortunately, there's always those unforeseen injuries. Shelton Benjamin. When I saw Shelton Benjamin was coming back, I was super hyped, just to find out the next week he got hurt.
Well, here,
so,
let's go one step further on this, because you talked about Sting, and I think that's a nostalgia thing. What about a new talent that we haven't seen yet, that's going to be making their debut, and they have vignettes that are leading up into it? Who is the last talent that you can think of that they put some vignettes out there that it was successful for?
Put him on the spot. Right now, I can't really.
Well, I can't think of one either. I would have to go back, like way back.
Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, and I think the Wyatts in general had a pretty good, and I think, because I'm trying to take the NXT audience out of this completely. If they're not, if they weren't an NXT audience, and you're watching a mainstream product like Raw and SmackDown, and they've got this build up for a character that's coming on to TV, and you're using vignettes to do it. I think it's so hard to be successful nowadays. But do you guys have any good examples in recent memory?
I think it's recent, but I think somebody who played off really well off of it, and if you've never had seen him in WCW, it worked for him. I think Y2J, when they hit the whole break the walls, and he's done it twice. He's had like two comebacks, you want to call it that, where they're building him with like cryptic messages, not even
Sure.
things that they say like "save us" and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. I think it worked for him.
Yeah, both of his were
But to
great.
be
Both
honest,
of, yeah.
with I don't remember anyone wrestling like this. I've never seen them before. I never followed them in another company, and then all of a sudden they did the huge debut, and I was like, oh my gosh, like
But
I'm
but
so
see,
happy that we're building these guys up.
it used to be a norm to get those vignettes out there. Like I still remember, and granted, this was after Mr. Perfect was already kind of popular, but I remember the Mr. Perfect vignettes, and he'd have
Yeah.
the different sports he's playing
Yeah.
every week, right? And to me, that helped build his character. I mentioned Mankind because I remember his coming in, and those were always super creepy, and I was like, man, who is this guy? And I didn't even know who Mick Foley was. I had no idea who Cactus Jack was at the time. I didn't watch WCW at all. So, and then I can remember the Headbangers. I remember they had the stuff where they would just be like showing mosh pits and stuff, and then they're like, "Oh, the Headbangers, who are these guys?" You know. But they used to have vignettes as sort of a lead into to a character, and I saw recently for NXT anyway, they were doing that lead in for uh, Eric Young, right? The
Sanity.
Yeah, Sanity. Thank you. So to me, I think that it's I think it's one of those things to where it's kind of a lost art. These build-ups prior to debuting. Overall, though, would you guys say you're a fan of it or not a fan of it?
Well, I'm definitely a fan just because of the art itself that goes into it. And yeah, it builds up an expectation for the wrestler. But in recent memory, the booking that comes immediately after the debut has just been so god awful. Like you're setting them up for success only to let them fall flat on their face as soon as they walk through the threshold, across the threshold, you know.
Yeah.
One of the best examples of this, to me, is Adam Rose. And now I understand, you know, he kind of dug his own grave there, but in NXT, the Rosebud and the Adam Rose Express, or I forgot completely what it was called, the Party Time All the Time. That was such a great act in NXT, and that got over so well. And when you have those vignettes coming into Raw or coming into the main roster, and as soon as he debuts, they pretty much just made him a joke. They didn't really have that seriousness that he actually had as a character in NXT. And you know, you build so much time to put effort into a character, it gets over organically, and then you make all these small little tweaks to it when they get to the main roster. That like how can you expect it to be a success when you've taken away all the key aspects of it once they finally debut? Now again, you know, he dug his own grave with some of his personal choices off screen, but yeah, like shortly after he debuted, they just turned him into the jobber. I think that he could have had a very successful mid-card career with what he was given if they had let him just roll with it, you know. Same with the New Day. When they first teased them getting together, you're like, oh man, like what's this going to be? This is going to be awesome. And they come out as the heel super positive New Day, and it was just crap. Like, really? Like, that's what you're going to do with it? I mean, thank God they were given some creative freedom to turn it around and make gold out of it. But yeah, it's all about the booking and letting them run with it, you know? Like, let them do their thing. Don't change what makes them get over on their own, you know?
Yeah, I definitely can see, you know, both sides of this. I think if you're coming from the perspective of those things don't really help you, or they do. I know Kofi Kingston talked about the ones that they were putting out for him as he was getting ready to debut, and he was like, those vignettes were terrible. And he always talks about how much he hated them, and so to me it was always just it's something that if it's done right, I think obviously it, like anything else, it's going to go over well. But I do think, in my opinion, it puts an expectation on a worker, I think that if you're going to get a vignette like that, I honestly think you should be an upper mid card or main event guy. Because otherwise, what's the point? If they do take time and they do these vignettes or whatever, and you're going to be losing in 2 weeks, then you just sort of wasted your time. One topic we'll have to cover someday is what's wrong with being a mid card talent. I think that some people look at it. I think some people look at it as like, if we're talking about these things, whether they're successful or not. I think some people, they don't see a career as being a successful one until you're up in that upper echelon of the company. And I think being a mid card wrestler nowadays, you're looked at as just a glorified jobber. But one turn I was going to talk about, so where a vignette might have been useful is with Braun Strowman, because we see him with Bray Wyatt and in this pseudo brainwashed weird family, and then right after the draft we see him and he just comes out and he's a monster, just changed his look a little bit and his music, whatever. But there's no explanation whatsoever about how he got away, kind of away from Bray Wyatt's influence, or to cut ties with them, or so. I just think from a storytelling perspective, they dropped the ball a little bit on him especially, and I don't think that they got to point A to point B very well. But
agreed.
What else do you guys have on builds for new talent coming in?
Well, I think we all already mentioned it briefly, but the Y2J, when he first crossed over from WCW to WWE, I mean, that was pure gold, and that's the best way to set somebody up who's talented, someone who has experience, someone who's been a success and gotten over in multiple promotions. That's the way to do it. Like, you want to know how to set somebody up for success immediately, give them vignettes like that, and then when they debut, have them go right at your top guy. Right after he did that, I mean, he didn't actually fight for the title. I don't think he actually fought The Rock, but he debuted and went toe to toe verbally with him and matched him step for step. So if the guy's got the talent, let him do it. And it doesn't have to always lead to a match, but you can still let him be successful.
Yeah, I think on the flip side of that, I think of the Outsiders, where when they came into WCW and there was nothing, no build-up, no vignettes, nothing. It was just surprises. Or like Lex Luger coming right in on the first episode of Nitro. It seemed to me like surprise debuts seem to get over better than, or even Santino Marella, these surprise debuts seem to get over better than a longer, drawn-out as we wait for this person to debut.
Didn't Fandango have vignettes as well before he came out?
What's that?
Didn't Fandango also have those kind of vignettes before he even showed up?
Yeah, Fandango did.
Like the building, the super dancer that wrestled as well.
Yeah, and then the several matches, like pretty much they did with Fandango, kind of what they're doing with Kurt Hawkins right now, building them up, but not actually having the matches. And granted, Fandango went on to beat Chris Jericho of all people at WrestleMania.
See,
so,
I honestly think they took Eva Marie's character when she got suspended, and they transferred it to Kurt Hawkins, because when he comes out, it's the same announcer guy that does the stuff for Eva Marie. And then he keeps trying to get out there, but then never debuts. So I'm like, did they just role reversal this because she got suspended? Did they just decide to give Kurt Hawkins like her gimmick?
All right. Do you watch What Culture Pro Wrestling on YouTube at all?
No, I don't.
All right. So on whatculture.com or What Culture Wrestling on YouTube, after every Monday Night Raw and Tuesday Night SmackDown, they have the WTF moments of the week, and it's got this character who's King Ross, and he counts up all the WTF, like what the hell, and just wacky, bizarre moments from Raw and SmackDown. And one of his points was, I think Eva Marie had a sex change and became Kurt Hawkins.
It's funny because it surely seemed that way to me from a gimmick perspective, like that's what they're going for. So that makes me wonder, like, do they sit around in creative and go, you know what, we have to have some turd that cuts these promos and says all these things and then comes out to the ring and then just decides to leave before they wrestle. Like, we have to have that niche filled. So we're just going to give it to this guy until Eva Marie gets back. I don't know what they're doing. I just know it's bad for Kurt Hawkins, and he's not going to get a push out of this. He's not going to get anything good out of this. In fact, I think all it's doing is just burying him. But,
yeah, I'm waiting for Kurt Hawkins
to be featured
to join up. No. Before that happens, he's going to team up with Curtis Axel, and I can't remember what his name is, but they signed him to Raw. He was a member of three-man band. It's hurting me that I can't think of his name, but they made this big deal out of his getting signed when he beat Heath Slater, and I haven't seen him since.
Oh, so, Jinder Mahal?
Jinder Mahal, there you go, yeah. So I'm waiting for them to form the new three-man band before they get future endeavored.
I don't know, but I think that if Curtis Axel and him started a tag team, it would be up there on one of the worst tag teams maybe in history.
Yeah, and it's a shame too, because those guys are talented.
Sure, yeah,
they can
absolutely.
Put on great matches. It's just booking, man. Like, it's okay to be a mid-card guy, and honestly, it's okay to be a jobber too. They make good money. Hell, I wish I could be a jobber for WWE. That'd be fantastic.
Ask James Ellsworth how he's feeling right now, selling the most T-shirts of anybody in the company right now.
Hey, when you can deliver a super kick the way he delivered that freaking super kick to AJ Styles,
you mean
I don't care.
You mean the no chin music?
Yeah, the no sweet chin music. Yeah, man, like that one spot and just legitimized everything about James Ellsworth in my mind. I mean, I just pissed off Cedric. Go ahead. Tease me more.
Look, they should have had him. They should have Steve Lombardi come out of retirement as the Brooklyn Brawler to take on James Ellsworth to determine who is truly the best jobber of all time.
Well, if you're gonna do that, you got to have Al Snow be the guest referee.
Okay, I could agree with that. Although I will say that at least Al Snow won, a title here or there. These guys, neither of those guys did. What's that?
Looks jacked.
What does everybody want? Oh, he does look jacked right now. What does everybody want? Steroids. That's what everybody wants right now.
Yeah. I'll say Al Snow may be one of the most bitter former wrestlers I know of, but the dude has a lot of knowledge about the business.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think everybody, you could say that about any career. You get old and crusty and just done. But you are full of knowledge, but you are old and crusty. So, all right. So we covered our main topics, and we're close to an hour and a half. So we should probably cover our instant classic match of the week, and then end this show with our fantasy booking tournament for the United States Championship. So, Hulkster, since it was your turn this week, why don't you lay out the match you picked for us?
All right. So, going to Super Clash 3, Jerry Lawler versus Kerry Von Erich. And going into this match, if you haven't seen this match or don't know any of the history behind it, either right before or right after, it sounds great on paper. And honestly, this was a pretty entertaining match. But the reason I picked this match honestly wasn't for the entertainment or for the match rating itself. I chose this match just to bring about some history for our listeners out there. Going into this match, this was probably the most true when it comes to stipulations, like most real world stipulations. This was a title unification match between the WCCW champion Kerry Von Erich and the AWA champion Jerry Lawler. And when I say a title unification, I don't mean two titles within the same promotion. I mean two separate promotions legitimately putting their titles on the line. And say what you will about some of the booking and the politicking going on backstage that went into this event, because honestly, you read about it, Super Clash 3 was probably the death of AWA and WCCW going forward afterwards. But history was made during this match, and that's why I chose it for our Instant Classic Match of the Week.
Awesome. Yeah, history lesson for sure. It's always good to hear that. Why in general, before we get too much in the match, why in general do people believe it was the end of the two companies?
Well, the biggest thing is the way this match ends, and we'll get into that. But the way this match ends, it was basically the Montreal Screwjob before the Montreal Screwjob. Now, it was already known beforehand how it was going to end, like coming from a booking standpoint. Yeah. It's just that the way it ended, Vern Gagne was the head of AWA at the time, and the way that they had this match end, and the way that they kind of did wrong by WCCW and how they went about it at the end, Vern Gagne lost so much respect from other bookers. And this was also right about the same time that Vince Kennedy McMahon was buying up wrestlers, and this event in general pretty much gave fans a reason to not buy into the territories and start buying into WWF or the WWF at the time.
All right, cool. Well, Cedric, why don't you go ahead and start us out at your opinions of the match, what you feel like watching it, just your overall thoughts and opinions.
Well, when Hulkster put this on our instant messenger room, and he mentioned how this was the one that killed this company, I had to look it up even before I watched the match. Actually, no, I'm lying. I started watching the match, and I really did not know what I was getting into. And when I saw title versus title to crown one undisputed, I got goosebumps. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, for the longest time, I've been talking about companies should have done this, and this was actually being done. I knew that one champion can venture into another territory with the title and fight, but I had never really studied or seen it. So I started watching the match. First of all, holy crap, Von Erich, for 1 second, I think I stared too long at his physique. Guy was built like what he claimed, that only one tower of Pisa is only one Eiffel Tower, but there's
only one Mona Lisa, only one leaning tower of pizza, and I'm it.
Yeah, guy was jacked, like seriously, Al Snow, whatever, steroids. This guy was freaking, I don't know what he was on, but I need to drink some of that.
That's neither here nor there.
I need to drink some of that yak milk. But
yeah,
that's what it was.
Yep.
That, yak milk. And I'm watching the match, and he just beating Jerry, and I'm like, man, this is gonna be a one-sided match. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm liking what I'm watching, and then all of a sudden, Jerry gets a little cheap shot, has something in his trunks, and hits him with it. And I'm like, why are you hiding whatever foreign object you have? It's a no DQ match. So I paused it, and so I started reading a little bit of the history behind it, and every article that I read talked about how this destroyed the territory. It starts talking about how one promoter and Gagne,
yeah,
Vern Gagne,
gets the other ones together, says, hey, let's do this. One guy pretty much broke down every single match and said, how they were bad, how Gagne's son beats Garvin and didn't make any sense, and everything he said. And I'm like, dude, whoa, you obviously hate this company. So I jumped to another website, and they all had the same thing. So I played the fight again, and I have remembered that before I watched the match, they talked about Manny Fernandez, who one of my favorite all-time villains in the world of wrestling, the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, versus Chief Wahoo McDaniels of all folks. And I remember them saying, because of all the blood loss, we need to be more stringent. And I've told the refs to stop the matches if it gets too bloody. So I'm not. I didn't fall on that until I keep watching the match, and since the beginning, here we have Von Erich with a cut in his bicep area. Then he's bleeding like a maniac, and I see the ref continuously checking on him. A good old-fashioned power driver from his part, from Jerry the King Lawler. A massive power driver from Von Erich, and I'm like, you know what? This match ain't that bad. I'm like, why are people complaining about it? And then it stops because of too much blood. Granted, holy Lord, I've never seen a Crimson Mask like that. He was intensely bleeding.
Uh-huh.
But it just took me out of, I was surprised. I'm like, he doesn't look dizzy. He's not setting like I'm hurt. He's actually got the famous claw, not only on the abdomen area, but in the head. Jerry's passing out. And then match ends. And I was like, what in the world? You can hear the crowd saying, chanting bullshit. Then the post-match fight interview, obviously, Von Erich's not happy. I think he took both belts with him. So I looked up some more history. I actually see a shoot interview with Manny Fernandez, and then he explains how they were so adamant in the back because they could not decide who was going to lose the belt. And at the end, nobody was going to lose the belt. He explains how Von Erich had a blade, cuts himself before he even gets to the ring. They couldn't fix him up. That's why he was bleeding immediately from the arm. He explains how he and Chief Wahoo McDaniel threw a fit in the back, talking about why are you guys doing this, like, why tonight? And then everything just pretty much, added together. And I'm like, wow. And then I read an article that said from this point on, nobody trusted Gagne because even after everything was said and done, he blamed the other promotions for the lack of fans coming out. I guess a 10,000 person venue or seated venue, they only had 1,500 people show up. So he only paid some of his guys, did not pay Jerry Lawler, who was his champion. Jerry Lawler holds up the title hostage, and I'm like, wow. A really good match up to the ending, but the fallout, dear Lord. What a sad way to go for a company that was known for its history. But that's what happens when the owner is champion for one company and then the other one has his kid as a champion, and it just didn't work out at the end. But up to that point, I thought the match was pretty interesting. It wasn't the greatest match, but it wasn't bad. I think I wrote a few things. Discus punch was way overdone. Von Erich impressive physique. Pretty wicked power drivers from both gentlemen. Horrible acting from the ref. And it was funny seeing people trying to hide foreign objects in a no DQ match. And at the end, the ending was bad. And once I found out why, I was like, man, it's pretty sad. Because they were, like you said, they were making history, but something happened. I don't know what happened. And there was a gentleman. I don't know why I wrote this. I wrote, if Stanley and Albert Einstein had sex, this guy is the product. I think it was one of the commentators. So I think that's why I wrote that. But the match was pretty interesting. It's just sad once you learn the history, what happened before, during, and afterwards. You're like, wow, you guys, they were trying to compete with a company that they obviously saw was in the up and up, that was taking all of their main players. I guess the Rockers and other ones had left the company, so they were just trying to survive and beat them. But like most companies that have gone against the UFC, they folded at the end. But sad to see the end of it. Sorry, I didn't even take too much time.
Oh no, that's fine. Good stuff in general. There's not a whole lot else to talk about the match. I was going to cover some of the psychology that I really enjoyed in this match, and one was if you're saying that Von Erich's arm was all cut up prior to coming to the ring, then I think it makes perfect sense that what they did with that initial move that Lawler did to put that arm down over the ropes, because those ropes are tough and they're hard. And I initially was like, wow, he really cut his arm open on that rope for a second, because I didn't know any better. And I thought maybe he hit that move stiff, or really
So
did
did
bring
I.
his arm down on top of it and it cut him open a little bit. So from a psychology perspective, I thought it made a lot of sense. It was a few things though. So the way the match went by is it was a classic kind of I guess almost like a chicken shit heel versus like a huge baby face in the way that this was billed, and the face gets the advantage early, and then eventually, because of miscues, the heel's going to take over in the match. And I think the use of a foreign object that he had in his tights, I think part of it was Lawler still wanted to legitimize his victory in this one. And so if he didn't openly use a foreign object, like right in front of the referee, basically, that, or at least this is the logic I'm trying to use, that he could go on the microphone and say that he beat him clean, with no controversy or whatever, because he would leave out the fact that he used the foreign object to beat him. Man, and I hate to say this, but the claw looks so bad on the stomach in this particular match. Like when he has that claw into Jerry Lawler's stomach. I guess maybe it's just me having trained in amateur wrestling. Like you just gotta turn over, man. Like you just gotta turn, and so the one on the skull always. I mean, that can make sense because you got a big hand. You push on either temple, and you can put a guy out pretty quickly. But on the stomach claw just didn't. That doesn't do it for me. It just didn't make a lot of sense from a move perspective. But otherwise, I obviously enjoyed the intensity of the matchup. The crowd was obviously into it. Everything that was going on. I think that to see two guys with such a contrasting style, but still be able to get out there and really perform was great. So overall, great match. Sad to hear about the story-wise, the ending of it, because I know similar things were prominent in the NWA also. That's why, they ended up having a lot of issues with people that work in that territory too, because of the way that they had to book certain things. But all right, Houkster, why don't you give us your thoughts in this match and kind of how you feel about it, since you wanted to share it.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest, Cedric said a lot of what I was planning on saying. I'm glad you said it because it saves me from winding myself, But yeah, as far as the ring psychology, even the commentating, they did such a good job throughout this match of really telling the story that to me it was super, super entertaining. And yeah, I didn't learn, like I'd seen this match a couple times on the network just because I'm a big Von Erich fan. But as far as the real backstory of it, until I started just actually diving in just because and learning more about just the fall of the territories in general, did I really learn about it. And then going back, watching it after learning some of the backstage info, it really changed the way I saw the match. But yeah, Von Erich had a razor taped between his fingers, and yeah, on his match he somehow ended up cutting his arm. But yeah, the way they sold it with the turnbuckle, even the commentators are selling it, that everything made sense. And even when the referee gets knocked out and Von Erich's holding Jerry down in the pin, and he's got him down there for like a 12 count before the referee finally gets up, like everything made sense. And then at the very end, sure, they already talked about the blood, and if there's too much blood, he's going to stop the match. But when you've got the claw synced in and Jerry's passing out, and all the ref can do is look at your face, not even look at the other guy being pinned, like to me, that was just like total crap. And I was just so pissed off. And like I said, it was a great match. Just it goes to show what booking can do to ruin a main event. And yeah, some people just can't let their egos go, I guess. And nothing against Jerry Lawler or Kerry Von Erich, or even against Vern Gagne, because the man is a legend in his own right. It's just the way they went about this event. It's saddening to see it fall the way it did.
It's just funny to have all those promoters finally agree on something to get together, but then they couldn't agree which one of their talent was the one to lose. Everybody wanted to win. And even at the end, Manny Fernandez was saying, like, Manny Fernandez says that his fight versus Chief Wahoo was so intense and violent was because they were so mad at what was going on in the locker room that they just decided, F it, we're gonna put on a good show. And Fernandez says, I didn't realize how pissed off Chief Wahoo was until he hit me with the strap as hard as he did. He's like, damn, this guy's really mad. And I guess he told him, like, is that all you got? So he hit him even harder. But it's sad, all they had to do was just come together and just decide, and a rematch could have been done eventually again and put up even a bigger show. But I guess, like you said, the egos were too big. Then they thought this would be the best outcome for both sides. But it's funny because they still named Jerry the King Lawler as champions of both companies.
Yeah,
that's the part that I didn't understand. That kind of threw me off. I'm like, it's really no winner. You stopped it because of all the blood, but then you announce he cannot continue fighting, therefore. And I'm like, wait a minute. He had the claw on. It wasn't like he was selling it. If he would have been selling it, like I'm getting dizzy, I'm about to pass out, then okay, because he cannot continue. But you just stopped it out of the blue. See, and like you guys have always told me, the claw was the claw.
Yeah. See, I think that success would have healed all wounds if they had packed a 10,000 person stadium or arena or whatever. I think that the booking, nobody would have cared that much about how it was booked, because once you have a full house and everybody's getting paid, all's good. When you book a 10,000 person arena and 1,500 people show up and you're not getting compensated for what you put on, then you have to compare as companies, like, who has the biggest company, who has the most legitimate, and who has the most to lose. And if Vern Gagne thought that he was the one that had the most, then you better bet my wrestlers are winning if I'm the one that's going to have to put out the most amount of money because of this show. So it's politics, and it's sad, but had that been a more successful event, and who knows, maybe it wasn't promoted properly, maybe they charged too much for tickets, maybe they did it on a day that somebody else was doing an event, or maybe their products just weren't that great. Whatever it might have been at the time, if they had been successful, I think that it would have been just a completely different event.
Agreed.
All right, so we have one last thing to cover tonight then, and that is who will advance in the next round of our fantasy booking for the United States Championship. And today we have a real treat, as we have Wahoo McDaniel, Chief Wahoo, we were just talking about a second ago, and his run, which went from, was it 84 to 85?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. It was, okay. I want to say August days of 84 until, I want to say March or April.
October 7th, 1984 through March 23rd, 1985.
There we go, yeah.
All right, cool. And then
October to March, yeah.
We're putting Wahoo at that time versus John Cena and his run that he had back in 2015 with the United States Championship. That is our matchup today. So going into this, first impressions of both of these guys. Cedric, what did you know about Wahoo McDaniel going into this before you watched anything?
Okay, I'll try to make it quick, guys. Fifth rank for Chief Wahoo McDaniel, like you guys already said, 167 days. I heard the name, really had not watched much about him. Speaking with Hawk Standing, he did mention that there was a heel turn. I ended up finding out that during this time frame is when the heel turn occurred. Hadn't really had not watched probably anything of him, or at least that I recall. Today, searching YouTube, I did find a match they had in Puerto Rico, so I probably did watch it while watching WWC or Wrestling Council. So I might have watched them, but I couldn't remember. And things that stood out for me was he beat Manny Fernandez, which is an amazing wrestler in his own right, to win the title. And then he lost it to Magnum TA. in a steel cage match. Fought Billy Graham, superstar Billy Graham, Jimmy Valiant, Buzz Tyler, Randy Tyler, and a few others during that reign. So obviously the guy was a who's who. Um, very well known, very well respected, not only because of his Native American heritage, which for the first time ever hearing somebody say Indian and during the commenting, I was like, whoa, how times have changed. He even made a mention of Ric Flair having a blonde hair, how that was different. Times have changed, obviously, but not only about his Native American heritage and how he represented it, but also his background in football. I did not know that. And in this day and age, somebody like him will be considered unathletic because of his build, and yet the man had a pretty athletic background. And the matches that I saw are very straightforward as a face, very technical, very basic, strong moves for that time. As a heel, holy lord, very sneaky, but yet still has some basic power moves. And him against Ric Flair, who had the worst chop, I think Chief Wahoo beat him, and that's crazy for me to say, but oh my gosh, what a chop that man had when he was chopping. The echo, the sound. Ric Flair's made one sound, but Chief's was just like a holy lord echoing through the whole place, and the reaction of the folks when he did it. And what a wicked finishing move, that elbow to the forehead. Crazy move. I've never seen that before, and I was like, that was believable. Very, very happy to have seen fights of Chief Wahoo McDaniels today. I was very, very happy.
All right. Hulkster, obviously we've all seen John Cena, so we don't need to cover too much time on him, but what were your thoughts of Wahoo McDaniel?
All right. Well, going in, there was 3 things I knew about Wahoo McDaniel. And Cedric, you touched on it already, but fans forever and always will woo after a chop is delivered. Mm-hmm. But oh my gosh, the tomahawk chop from Wahoo McDaniel, he finished guys with a chop to the chest. That's unheard of. Like a chop to the chest, and he would take people out. People like superstar Billy Graham defeated by a chop to the chest. Yeah. Like people go woo after Ric Flair after a tomahawk chop. People go ah. Huh. It's ridiculous.
Is that a war cry?
Second thing, pretty much. I think it's a cry of pain,
like an Indian
and agony. Well, you can say those. It's okay.
Yeah.
But second thing, strap matches. Like strap matches are a rarity to find good, really entertaining strap matches. Wahoo McDaniel was pretty much famous for some of his strap matches. Oh my gosh, freaking Tully Blanchard. Oh man. And the third thing, yeah, you already mentioned it. He was a pro football player, linebacker for the Houston Oilers, Denver Broncos, I think a couple other teams. But during his off season, while he was with the Houston Oilers, he would train to be a wrestler while being paid by the American Football League at the time. During 1966, he was training to become a wrestler in his off time. Like how much devotion to the business do you have when you're already getting paid good enough by the football league to want to be a wrestler? Like, to me, that's awesome.
And then as far as what you saw in the matches after the fact, were there any other surprises?
I think the most surprising thing to me, and really like once you know his history as a linebacker in football, like it makes sense. But what really stood out surprisingly enough to me was his ability on the mat. I mean, sure, he had that devastating chop, and he had good size and strength to lift people up and slam them. But oh my gosh, Wahoo McDaniel had some great, just raw technical mat wrestling skills, and that to me blew my mind, because he's not a big physique guy, you know. No. He's a little rounded, but man, like when you think about guys like Bam Bam Bigelow, who were big guys but still agile for this time, you know, 60s, 70s, and going into the mid 80s, the guy was extremely agile for his size, and that to me is what really blew me away about watching some of his matches.
I think for me, so obviously growing up as as a Native American, like pro wrestling is something that you've always had a kind of a look into. Which you had Chief Jay Strongbow, you had Wahoo McDaniel, and then of course when I was a kid you had Tatanka. So you always had that Native American figure in wrestling. You had the Young Bloods, you had there numerous others, but what I remember, people would always make fun of Wahoo McDaniel, like when I was a kid, because of the way he looked. Like he had that just the huge crooked nose, and he had the real big belly. And I think part of that is the only memories I had of Wahoo McDaniel were when like he was at the end of his career. And so I didn't really get to see anything of him when he was in his prime. And even this, for what we were studying in his late 80s run, is toward the end of his career. I mean, he'd been wrestling probably 15 years at this point. So I mean, he wasn't exactly like in his prime anymore for this particular title run that we're watching. Nobody threw a better chop than Wahoo McDaniel. I don't think that there's
Fact.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody on the planet Earth that could throw a chop like Wahoo. I mean, Big Show could hit you with that frying pan chop he does. I don't think he gets the same intensity that Wahoo McDaniel could get on a single one of those tomahawk chops. You're talking about a guy, so at this point in his career, he'd beaten Ric Flair several times. He'd beaten a who's who of, I know they were going through the list when he was wrestling Magnum TA, and it was impressive. And so he'll always be a legend in my book when it comes to this, and a sneaky athlete too, and obviously extraordinarily brutal during this heel time of his run. I mean, he beat superstar Billy Graham in like 4 minutes.
Yep.
On Starrcade '84. So just kind of crazy to think about the guy who basically Hulk Hogan took his gimmick from. He beat in about 4 minutes. So, a couple interesting facts. All right.
23-inch pythons.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, the 24-inch pythons.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Just a little bit better.
Bigger is better, right?
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah, I always say it's how you use it. But so if you go back to Cedric, if he was to square off against John Cena from 2015, interestingly enough, both guys probably in around the same amount of time in the wrestling ring with one another. Who would you say wins and why? How do you see the match going and who wins?
Well, before watching the videos, I had one thought process, and after watching the fights, I had a whole different thought process. I think that if being that Chief was heel at the time, I would see him using those chops. I would see him using a little bit of that basic mat wrestling that he had, just basic moves but solid moves, because that's pretty much the way it went when he fought against Magnum TA. He did a lot of his chops, his more power moves for a man his size, 5'11", 2+. You know, he had those power moves, and I could see him just trying that on John Cena, just trying to tire him out, wear him out, a few dirty moves here and there if need be, maybe a low blow, something to cut, anything to debilitate and pretty much weaken Cena. This is the part that kind of broke my heart after watching all the videos. When I went through all the months that he was a champ, he either lost by DQ, which brings the fact that he was a heel. A lot of his opponents were winning by DQ because of this. He was either or beat fair and square, countouts or time limit had run out, and he had a few good victories, especially against Manny Fernandez, had a few against Billy Graham before losing to Magnum TA. Cena, on the other hand, during his run, the man was pretty much unbeatable. I think he had one clean loss against KO, and I think he had a few where the opponent won by DQ. They didn't really look at the matches, didn't want and find out why he got disqualified and the opponent won. So I thought about that, and then once I watched the Magnum TA match, a younger, faster, kind of sort of stronger guy. And like you said, this was not his peak. This Chief had started like in 1967 when he debuted, or 64. So being more towards the end of his cycle, life cycle, if you will, in the wrestling ring, I thought to myself, who better than Mr. John Cena, Super Cena, to at some point eventually find the energy and the burst that he always gets, the same one that he had when he beat Rusev for the title and beat him a few other times afterwards. Unfortunately, as much as I like Chief, I ended up thinking, you know what? Era for era, I think that Chief will definitely put up a really good fight, but I think the man that dethroned Rusev, beat Ambrose, Stardust, Bad News Barrett, Kane, Sami Zayn, Ryder, Cesaro, KO, Rollins through his time as champ, and cage matches, street matches, chain matches, strap matches, whatever. I think Cena would once again come up with an attitude adjustment and win. But definitely, in my opinion, it will not be an easy match for him. That definitely will not be an easy match. He will come out with a pretty red chest, maybe his forehead smashed in by that elbow, but I think at the end his youth and strength will probably outdo for this one match, Chief. But definitely in a series of matches, don't get me started. But
Yeah, don't
for
sleep on Chief. But yeah,
one match only, I think Cena would take it.
All right, Hulkster, who do you got?
You know, this is actually a lot tougher. Once I really started diving into the tape, this match got tougher and tougher for me. But ultimately, when you're going specifically this title run versus John Cena's 2015 title run, it's hard pressed not to say that John Cena's Open Challenge may have been the best thing to happen to the United States Championship, especially in a time where we went almost 10, 15 years, pretty much since the United States Championship went to WWE. This is probably the best title run I think we've seen. And, I mean, heck, even Rusev's right before it did a lot to raise the prestige. But what John Cena did with his Open Challenge is, like, it really raised the bar on what a United States Championship match should look like. And as you said it, like, Wahoo McDaniel, he had been in like 15, 20 plus years almost by the time this that his title run happened. And another thing I noticed during this title reign by doing some footage is that some of the matches that Wahoo took as champion, I'm not going to say they were squash matches, but he definitely had matches against much lesser opponents. Case in point, his match with Sam Houston. Sam Houston, you know, decent wrestler, but nowhere to the level of what Wahoo McDaniel went through. And leading up to the Magnum TA match, you could hear Magnum TA saying, "Quit ducking me, give me this match." And when they finally had the match inside the steel cage, Magnum TA beat him with the power slam. Granted, it was a very hard fought and very toughly contested match. But that big match that he finally got, you know, Wahoo McDaniel ended up falling. And as we all know, there's arguably no one better than Big Match John himself. And if anyone's going to stand up to multiple tomahawk chops, Cena might be that guy. And if this was 75 or 77 Wahoo McDaniel versus John Cena in 2015, I would definitely give it to Wahoo. But at this stage in his career, and specifically for this title run, even though it was his longest, I got to give it to John as well.
All right, so here's Wahoo McDaniel steps in the ring. John Cena gets in there. Wahoo McDaniel hits a tomahawk chop. John Cena taps out. That's how it ends. No, I'm kidding.
I would love to see Cena sell one chop and then just get knocked out and not kick out after two. That would be a sight to see.
Hey,
If it was Kevin Nash, his quad would just explode.
yeah, right. Say his quad. Wahoo would have somehow managed to give him a tomahawk chop in the quad. He'd end it all. But anyway, so man, this is a tough one because I got to see some Wahoo McDaniel stuff from the mid '70s, and the stuff he had from mid '70s versus the stuff that he had here close to the mid '80s, completely different. I'll say this, that if you're comparing these two, these title runs, I'm not going to say it's a squash because I don't believe that. I think Wahoo McDaniel's a tough enough, smart enough guy that he's not going to let John Cena just run over him throughout this match. But if you think about that, and I have to go back to that loss to Magnum TA. If you think about it, at that time, Magnum TA was the best athlete, one of the best athletes in that company.
Yep.
From a speed, strength, agility standpoint and all that. And honestly, I don't think he's as good an athlete as John Cena is, even during this title run in 2015. So from a strength perspective, Cena's faster, stronger, all those things compared to Magnum TA. And he sort of overwhelmed Wahoo in that match. Now, the only thing that Wahoo could potentially have is if it got into just a complete dogfight, because there's one thing Wahoo could do is go an hour nonstop. I mean, I don't even see the guy breathe hard, even in close to the mid 80s. You never see the guy breathing heavy. So I think from a cardio perspective, that's the one advantage you would have. But unfortunately, I think that John's just too much for him. And he's probably not going to know what the hell's going on when he picks him up on his shoulders and drops him on his head. I mean, he's used to like getting finished with a belly to belly. The damn AA might kill him. Yeah. Also, and we'll notice this as we go later into the ranks. I mean, John Cena's run that he had with the U.S. title in 2015, because of the importance of what it was for that particular title. It's gonna be interesting, but so far of the title reigns that we've seen, even some of these longer ones, there hasn't been as impressive of just what someone did with a title, not necessarily their in-ring performance, but what they did to elevate the championship. And then they just had Kalisto carry it for a while, but
for one day.
Yeah. But
don't get me wrong, that U.S. title back in the day was so prestigious that a company decided to go away with the world title, and the U.S. title was the heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
That's how prestigious that title is. That's why Kalisto having it when he had it, holy Lord, freaking spit on everybody's grave that ever wore that title.
And
but
I was gonna say, I think that it's going to be interesting as we go into these other rounds, and we actually start having stipulations in the next few rounds after this, because just in a straight up match, I think that this is one where John would have had an advantage. But if we would have had something like a strap match that you mentioned earlier,
that changes everything.
It would completely change the way this match would have went. So, as after this initial round, when everybody just sort of wrestles to get in, we're gonna be doing a random wheel of doom for what the stipulation is gonna be going into that week. So it should be a lot of fun, just progressing and not looking at just standard matches throughout this whole tournament, because the winner's gonna have to have won in a variety of different matches.
We're doing a Steamboat Flair Braun Panties match, right?
I mean, whatever.
Rusev's Cena strap match was nothing compared to the Manny Fernandez Wahoo McDaniel strap match.
Oh yeah, and
those two were just bloodied up like nothing seen before. Even Manny Fernandez still at the time was having goosebumps as he talked about it.
Yeah, you're talking about that Super Clash match, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were like, this is ridiculous. Like, and that was all them. That was just them two talking. Hey, we don't like what's going on here, so let's get the crowd happy, and let's do what we do best. And if one thing Manny Fernandez did, if freaking Manny Fernandez knew how to bleed and make his opponents bleed, because holy Lord, that guy was, they don't call you the Raging Bull for nothing.
All right, well, it might have seemed simpler this week, but it was still a lot of fun going back and watching some of this older stuff, and just a sneaky peek here for next week. Should be an interesting couple of title runs here because I hadn't seen a lot of older Sergeant Slaughter stuff. I only remember his really early '90s stuff, and I know he was a lot older then. But we're gonna have Sergeant Slaughter versus stunning Steve Austin in his WCW United States Championship run.
Ooh, this
so
will be interesting.
should be an interesting matchup with these two going at it, and face versus heel should be a pretty classic matchup here. So, you guys got anything else before we check out for the week?
Now, I just want to shout out again to the guys over at W2Mnet.com. We're writing articles for them. They're being posted just about every week now. So in addition to our podcast, you can also pick our brains on some written work as well. And definite big shout out to those guys for letting us join the network.
Yeah, obviously, we're a W2M production. They're letting us get out there on the website and do our thing, not only with the podcast, like you guys said, also believe it or not, if you're a football fan, you can go on there. They do football stuff. They do video games. They're trying to expand into any form of entertainment, but their primary love is for wrestling. So check out the website though. I'm sure you'll find something that you'll like. Cedric, you got anything else for us before we get out of here?
No, man, I'm good.
Alrighty. Well, hope you enjoyed the episode. Like always, we're looking for feedback. We're looking for potential topics. We just want to talk about wrestling. So if there's anything that's on your mind or something you want to know for us that we can cover on a show for you, we really look forward to it. And until next time, Jobber's Court is adjourned. Thank you.
The following podcast is a W2M Network partnership production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.